What's up, everybody? My name is Elliott, but you can call me the Motory Notary. And if you can't tell, I'm back in Scottsdale. Yes, last time you saw me, I was in Scottsdale, but I left, and now I'm back. But this time, I'm back because it's time for another Worldwide Auctioneers auction. This time, obviously in Scottsdale. And today, I want to talk to you about some of my finds, or my favorites. So I think we're going to call this Elliott's Finds, or Elliott Finds Favorites. I haven't decided yet, but either way, I want to show you some of the coolest cars that we've got at this year's auction, and you guys can still tune in live this Friday at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So let's go look at some of these awesome cars. Up first on some of my favorites is, of course, a podium car. Behind me, a 2004 Lamborghini Murcielago, and yes, I love that it's yellow, but check this out. What makes this one special, other than being raised off the grass, is inside. So yes, you have your 6.2 liter V12 and over 500 horsepower, but this one is a gated manual. And if you guys have been following Ed Bolian or any car people for a long time, you know that the gated manual cars are shooting up in value and are incredibly hard to find, especially in this grade of condition. I love this thing very, very much. It's the right color, it's got the right transmission, and it's really cool I get to touch it. So let's go check out some of the other ones. Next up is really probably my actual favorite car in the whole auction. It's this, a 2001 Ferrari 550 Barchetta. Now what makes this special is, well, practically everything about it, but if you're familiar with 550s, they were all coupes until the very last year Ferrari decided to make this a roadster. And that's not just a convertible. There isn't a top. You can't put the top up. It is always a convertible, and I love that. It's so cool and so hardcore. But beyond that, it's also exceptionally rare. They only made like 448 of these for the world, and of those, only like 200 made their way to the States. And obviously this one's the correct color, red, which is, you know, Ferrari resale red, but it's just also the color I think it should be. And of course, it also has a gated manual, but this is how Ferrari should be. Open top, big V12. This one also has a 2B exhaust. This is just such a cool car for me. I remember playing the 550 Barchetta in video games when I was a kid, and it's always a pleasure to get to be around one, let alone be able to like touch one. This is going to be so exciting. And like I said, we're really kicking off Elliott's favorites with, well, probably my favorite, but there's still a lot of other cool stuff. So let's keep marching the lawn here. Of course, over here we have a 1961 300 SL. This is kind of the poster car for this event, and how could it not be? They're beautiful. They've been really shooting up in value recently, and this one's the correct color combo. It's really stately. Even the top is red. I'm really excited to see what that thing goes for. But some of the other cool cars I want to show you are further on the lawn here. First of all, this is a Shelby GT350 that was factory supercharged. That's pretty rare. I think they only made like 400 of those. But this is very, very special. This is a 1938 BMW, and you might say, that's crazy. I didn't even know they made BMWs before then. Well, it's because it's crazy rare. You really don't see pre-war BMWs, and here's one. I mean, in this crazy color. Really, if you think about it, we didn't really start seeing BMWs in the States until practically the early to mid 70s. So it's very, very rare to have a pre-war BMW, let alone one like this in absolute concours condition. Now, moving on to a huge difference of a car, and by huge, I mean gigantic. This is a 1959 Cadillac, and my cameraman Evan had to back up there because, well, look at it. I'm still walking. This is the longest car that has probably ever existed, but it's also the most desirable of the fin era Cadillac cars because this is as big as these wild styled finned cars ever got. I mean, you got the rocket taillights. This thing's cool, but it's also just the biggest, most American thing I've ever seen in my life. And it has all the cool Cadillac features. It has air conditioning, and that little thing on the dash there is called an Autronic eye. So I know we all get excited about automatic dimming headlights, but Cadillac had it in 1959, if you can believe that. Now, this wasn't a cheap car by any means, but what a statement it must have made pulling up to this in 1959. This didn't even fit in most people's garages in 1959. This thing is awesome. And then over here, while we're talking about red cars, you guys know it, I mention it every time I see them, but a Ferrari 599, this one a 2007. This is part of my probably two-car dream Ferrari garage is one of these because it's a front engine V12, but it still has the old style F1 single clutch gearbox. So every time you grab a gear, it really bucks you in. And this one is in the correct color combo. So it's red on the outside, and again, please don't do this if you're at a car auction or car show, but it's got the perfect tan interior with the carbon fiber racing style seats. It is just absolutely gorgeous. I've had the pleasure of driving a few of these, and well, they're my favorite for a reason, and that's why they're making the list of Elliott's favorites. So here we are. I just get excited every time I see one. Continuing to fave on here, we've got a beautiful plum crazy purple 71 Cuda, and this one has the pistol grip manual shifter, and that's pretty much how you want your muscle car to be. But over here, we have this beautiful Delahaye 135A, and this thing's really, really cool for a number of reasons. First of all, it's a Delahaye. You never see these. And these things were so advanced for 1949, which is what this one is. First of all, this was kind of a very luxurious car, if you can't tell from its stately appearance, but it's got what's called a 3-position roof. So the roof can either be fully enclosed, it can be like this, which is what I would call like a targa position, even though it's not, or it can be fully down. And you'd think when it's in this position that all of the air is going to come in here and this would scoop back and like blow this thing back, but it is like rock solid. And even on the inside here, the sturdiness of this cannot be overstated. But beyond all of that, my absolute favorite feature and what makes these luxury cars is the shifter in this. This has one of those pre-selector transmissions. So right here on the column, you see a little tiny baby H pattern, and that is how you shift it. You have your index finger and your thumb, and you kind of snick it into gear. You push the clutch in, it'll select the next gear, and you let it out. And it kind of does it for you. It was like an early F1 single clutch transmission, but back in 1949. How cool is that? All right, and the last car I want to talk about outside is another Lamborghini Murcielago, and I mean, I guess you really can't get too tired of talking about these, but this one, unlike the 04 from over here, instead of having a 6.2 liter V12, this has a 6.5 liter V12, and when they gained that extra displacement, they gained some extra horsepower, because this is what's called an LP640 Lamborghini Murcielago. And on top of that, this one is a roadster. So this is pretty much exactly what Bruce Wayne drove in Batman. And this thing's awesome. It's black on black. The roadsters have a lot more style to them, a lot more cuts and angles to them. I really love them. And of course, you can't go wrong because inside it's got yellow deviated stitching to match the yellow carbon ceramic brakes on this thing. And of course, you can't ever get tired of opening up a Lamborghini door, because how cool is this? And well, these privileges of my position at the auction, which means I'm pretty much going to open every Lamborghini door I can. But let's go see what's in the tent. All right, we are now inside the tent, and this is another one of Elliott's favorites. This is a 1967 911S, and it's got this kind of wild martini paint livery scheme that I love. And not only is it the first year of the 911S, but this particular car has been modified for like vintage racing, and it's been modified as if you were racing in 1967. So it's got all of the race goodies, including like a little roll bar and stuff like that. And not only does it look cool, but it's got one of my favorite things that 911 guys do, especially on these early cars. When they go racing, they take the tachometer, which is center mounted, and they rotate it so that where you shift is actually kind of in your field of vision straight up instead of, you know, all the way to the right. And this one has that. A lot of people come in here and be like, why is the tach rotated and all the numbers are on the side? I was like, because if you're racing, you don't want to sit there and lose track of where the little needle is, because they're pretty small in these cars. But everything about this car is ready to be vintage raced. And like I said, I love the paint scheme. It even has the battery cutoff on the outside. So, I mean, this thing's fully legal, and it's been to a lot of track days. It has all the stickers to prove it. I think this thing's really, really neat. But there's also some other cool stuff in here, so let's keep looking. All right, still going through, faving my favorites. We've got a 1940 Packard Darren convertible Pebble Beach car, one of only 11 known to exist. Pretty rare, pretty exciting. Over here we got a fully blacked out Plymouth Roadrunner Hemi car, real Hemi, which is pretty rare. And then behind me, we have an Edsel Ranger, which if you remember the kind of failed Ford offshoot Edsel, well, this was the last year they ever made it, and this one's a convertible, so that's pretty rare and pretty cool. I love the color combo, very 50s. But over here, we have something that's a lot more in all of your wheelhouses, a Shelby Series 1. And yes, with design help from Carroll Shelby himself, his name is on the seats, but these are just so stylish and so cool. And believe it or not, they're powered by an Oldsmobile V8. You'd think this would be a Ford thing with all the Ford stuff in them, but nope, it's powered by an Oldsmobile. And this one only has 750 miles on it, which is basically brand new, especially for it being a 99. You know, that's pretty much no miles a year. But behind my cameraman, If you look, is that a Supra? Yeah, it's kind of a weird car to have in this lineup, but man, is it ever so rare to see a factory, non-modified Targa Supra. Now this one is an automatic, but that doesn't mean that it's not special or valuable, and it definitely a diamond in the, I was gonna say diamond in the rough, but it's kind of a diamond amongst diamonds here. Just kind of a really cool car to see. I love this, a 1957 Bel Air convertible, fuel injected convertible, which is extraordinarily rare, and then even more rare is that nobody hot rodded it. This and that Cadillac outside would have just been the coolest cars you could have had in the 50s. They're nothing but style. They've got the bullet nose stuff going on in the hood, the rocket fin taillights, and I love this. Even for style, it has two antennas. One of them works, and one of them is fake to balance out the other. That's how concerned they were with style back then, and I love it. And like I said, it's so good to see an unmolested version of one of these. Very excited to see what that goes for. All right. Marching along, we've got a factory air-conditioned E-Type Jag, which is pretty rare. Not a lot of those have air conditioning, and well, it's British. But what I really want to talk about is right here behind me, a 1961 Chrysler 300G. And this is special to me because apparently when my dad was young, like one of his first cars was one of these, but not a G. So this is what's called a letter car. The one my dad didn't have as big of a motor. But these things are really, really cool. Not only are they nothing but style, but my favorite personal part about them is on the inside, because the interior and the gauge cluster is so cool and so 60s. And did I mention this one also has air conditioning? That would have been in 1961, but let me show you these gauges. Okay, so this is the best part of this car. The gauges are in this kind of pod. It comes at you. You have your speedometer in the background, but then in like stadium seating, you have all of your other readouts. And like I said, it looks very 3D and very futuristic. Like, I mean, it's kind of like a Jetsons dash. It's so cool, and I've never really seen anything like it. And not to mention that, because this was the time when everything was futurism, the gear shifter, as you can see, no column shift and no shifter down here, but no, it's got push button gears. In 1961, we are just now getting back to people reinventing the shifter. Just like now, if you get a GMC Yukon, it kind of has push button gear shifts, but well, they thought of it in 1961 as well. And like I said, the combination of push button gear shift, those gauges, air conditioning, and the big power under the hood, this thing is pretty cool. All right, finishing up Elliott's favorites. There's almost alliteration there. We've got a 1969 Corvette convertible, 427. You know I like that. Can't go wrong here either, a 1995 Dodge Viper. This was the last year of the no door handles, no windows nonsense, so you gotta love that. But right here is what I want to end on at the end of my faves, because this is a Sunbeam Tiger. And if you know what those are, well, it's a little British car, but this actually has a Ford V8 in it. So this was kind of like a Cobra Junior. And in fact, Carroll Shelby supplied the motors for these. So this is that perfect combo of little British car, hilariously large horsepower. And this one is particularly very cool because not only is it cool to begin with, but this is body number one. So of all the Sunbeam Tigers in the world, this is number one, and it's here at Worldwide, crossing the block Friday at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, or Arizona time, whatever you want to call it. And of course, I'll be hosting the TV coverage along with my co-host Kayla, and you guys can tune in either on Worldwide's website, Worldwide's YouTube. I believe it's going to be on Facebook Live as well. I'll have all those details in the description below. And if you happen to be in the Arizona area, you can actually come to the auction for free if you use my promo code Elliott in the checkout section when you go to buy tickets. How cool is that? They're hooking you guys up with tickets if you're in the area. Again, I'll have all of those details in the description. But thank you guys for watching and letting me do this little walk around. There's of course way more cars that I didn't get to, but this is always fun. I will see you guys at the auction on Friday, and I'll definitely see you on the next video.